It's Talking Baseball Australia. It's baseball updates you'll really love. The MLB and ABL news you want. With Paul Morgan and Dan Vaughn. It's baseball's best mate all year round. From the batter's box to the mound.
And with that, of course, we got to do a remix next year or something. Their partner, it's Dan Vaughn and Paul Morgan with you on Baseball's Best Mate for this round 9 edition. Good morning to you. You're already in the office this morning, man. You're looking good, ready to go.
Yeah, in the office, ready to go. Big, Thursday night baseball coming up as well. Heat and the Blue Sox. So for the last time this season, which it always feels a bit weird, DV, to be 8th of January and you're at the last call. But yeah, look, that's the way it goes this year, and it's all good. So, but love the office, the library as well. You've
Yes.
got you down in the library, which is very cool as well. You look very
Let me,
smart, DV.
let me show you. Let me show you this. This is something I did today on my Sioux City show. This is the complete plays of William Shakespeare. But let me show how big this
Yes.
book is. It's so big that I can like hide behind it. Like it's like bigger than my face. It's like that. This is what I did on my show today.
Yeah.
Look at it. That's like the
Yeah.
world's largest book.
Well,
It's
see,
like
that's before they had baseball to watch and phones to scroll on. He just kept on writing, didn't
yeah,
he? So,
you'd sit there for 9 years and read that book. I mean, I was like, dang, I was like, because somebody commented in my show, they're going like Explorers Expresso, and I go, well, I got the complete plays of Shakespeare here,
yeah,
but
yeah.
we are we are looking for some big plays this week. Is the ABL? And you're right. And we've talked about this a couple times. We are in that. I mean, we're by usually right here. We're looking at the late import, arrival. We're looking at the Japanese players leaving. We're looking at that kind of last really month, but we just had New Year's and we've just got 2 weeks left. I mean, it's crazy the shortened season with the fewer teams. It has made it a sprint, which we knew it would be. Um,
Mm.
but it is weird. It just feels like we should have another month, but we don't. It's weird.
Yeah, it certainly is. It's just sort of, yeah, like and I think this is probably where this season has caught a few people off guard a bit. Like, but yeah, I think it's look, most people are back at work now as well, so it's probably like I think it's probably worked out pretty well. But look, it'd be good. I mean, there's really good crowds on the weekend again. Great to see so many kids at the ballpark, and hopefully with school holidays on, there'll be lots of kids out there again this weekend. And and I will start the show by saying, tip of the cap, the Heat are doing something really cool this year, and I think it's worth mentioning. In the double headers, they're inviting little league clubs down. My son's little league club went a couple of weeks ago. I've said this on the broadcast, but the players come out and sort of do a little clinic with the little league guys, and then they sort of obviously hang around and watch the double dip. So it's really cool on a Saturday to see, hundreds of little leaguers at the ballpark, because I think and you've been there plenty of times as well, Diva. It's great when you can see the kiddos just running around enjoying the game and seeing like, kind of getting an idea of what they want to do.
Yeah, no doubt. And get the kids involved. I mean, that's only going to get them, get them back. And that we've talked about that. That'll be in our end of season breakdown. We're going to talk a little bit more about that because that's something I firmly believe in about trying those out. But yeah, tip the cap. I mean, and it's weird because I just there's a couple things in my mind, and one is the Team Spencer's usually happening around now. It's already happened. That's part of it, and it seems like too. The other thing is it just always seemed like, and I'm going from a Perth perspective, that when you get to Australia Day, you're usually still playing a series at home, and it's just bizarre that this year you're not going. It's just a weird. It's part of the weird dynamic. I know we pivot, we make a move, but it just in years gone by, that's sort of been the case. It just feels like to me there's just a weird dynamic there. And anyway, that's just my take on
Well,
that. What?
what's going to be really interesting is particularly, and maybe this will play well for the Australian Open tennis, but because the Ashes is the last day of cricket today. Big Bash is slowly starting to wrap up as well, and then there's a long wait until the footy rolls around in yeah, long week to roll around. So we'll see.
Opportunity
Long
right
time,
there.
sorry, long time to roll around. And then
Yeah,
that's, it's actually talking to someone on the weekend, and he was just talking about the ABL in general, and sort of said, wouldn't it be cool if this season went from December to April, and went from sort of started in December and kind of finished, maybe finish back end of March. I mean, that was sort of his thinking. And then, you're kind of in a bit of clear air. The weather's always good,
and
and
maybe
you're not impeded by Major League.
that's where it makes sense because now let's take the affiliated players out of that scenario. Let's just say that's the case. So you're going to take your Phillies out, your Rays out because they're going to be in minor league spring training in March. And anybody that's invited to the big league camp is going to be there in February. Into February, anybody that's trying to make a big league club is going to be gone. But there you've got some younger kids who maybe pre-draft kids, Australian kids. You've also got independent kids that could partner league kids because they don't start until May 1. So you've got yourself a good window there. And from a Team Australia standpoint, you'd be getting some reps for your domestic players as well, if it's closer to when qualifying is going to happen or when the WBC is going to happen or whatever. That all is going to happen usually later than as opposed to earlier. I mean, I think you're onto something there. I don't think I mean, you're going to lose some of the affiliated players, but if the idea is to grow the game domestically, then
Hmm.
it's more opportunity. I do think that's a possibility. I can see that. I could
Yeah,
really.
and that was sort of the logic of, like, the front half of the season you could have some affiliate players in there, and you probably wouldn't lose your indie players if you're finishing at the end of March. There's no reason why the indie players would have to leave, and yeah, you're sort of filling that gap in between, where you sort of almost not avoiding Christmas, but you're sort of just getting there just before Christmas rolls, and you're getting more of the hot summer nights. You're getting more of the, and then yeah, your back end of the season is really the local guys that would sort of carry the load once the affiliated guys went, say, in end of Jan. So you might get 2 months of them and 2 months of sort of local guys, and that was, I thought it was a pretty good thought.
And it's very much like the Mexican League, AAA Mexican League is. You get a lot of roster movement, a lot of influx. You're going to have there's a couple of guys that are going to be your mainstays. There's a guy, former guy in the partner league, Nick Torres, who's the MVP down there offensively. He was with one team all year, but by and large, even in Mexico, you've been thinking about it in the minor leagues. Let's go to AAA. Give me a AAA team. Your roster's in flux anyway. You're going to have a few, maybe 5 to 7 names you're going to see most of the year, but you're going to have a roster in flux, and that's where if your mainstays are going to be your let's use Perth for example. Let's say it's Jess Williams, it's Bowser, it's those guys. I mean, insert whoever, Kennelly,
Mm.
Tim Kennelly. Those guys are always going to be there. It's how you place your affiliated guys, your partner league guys around them, and that makes for a challenging job for the manager in the front office to player personnel wise, but also I think creates a more of a gamesmanship to it as well to maybe maintain your roster over a course and two different kinds of rosters. Because what really makes a partner league, and I use AAA Mexico or American Association so successful, is how you manage your roster all year long, not just in April and May, but how you
Mm.
manage your roster in July and August is as important as you. They're all important, and how you make those moves. I think you're onto something. I don't know who said it, but whoever said it that I said good on them.
Yeah, you know the person who said it, but I won't tell you. I won't say who said it though. But
No,
but you
no,
know
no.
you know them reasonably well.
I'm
So
sure I do here on baseball's best friend. It's a very small baseball world. All right, round 8 knee jerks for you. What did you see? Did you? I mean, I guess the thing for me is there's been a lot of individual performances. I'll just start with me. I'll just say it myself, but the story has only changed. The story's been the same at the top. The bottom three have been kind of interchanging. But what were your knee jerks for round 8?
yeah, look, I didn't catch a lot of the Adelaide Sydney series, but from sort of from looking and watching that, I mean, I think you're spot on. I don't think there's too many breaking news. Look, the Perth Brisbane series, I thought that was, it was a great job for Perth to win three. Brisbane probably could have. I don't think Brisbane were far off in terms of. I don't think there's really, ultimately, and I think this is the whole part of the league. Even watching parts of that Adelaide and Sydney, I don't really think there's a lot that separates all four teams. I mean, I think there's like being Perth have just, I think their rotation stacked up pretty well. And then sort of when you saw one of the outings didn't go well, that's when they sort of look vulnerable. But look, like Brisbane, I mean, they could go on a tear. I don't see why they couldn't. Adelaide looked really good in patches that I saw in Sydney, and Sydney, Sydney have, again, you just kind of look through the categories, and they lead majority of the categories that you look at. So it's just, like it's a matter of, again, you kind of, but what's interesting is like Sydney are leading the league and they got the worst batting average in the league, so it's just it's bizarre. And then and they've also got what is just sort of, they got the best, obviously, they got the best pitching in the league, and that's in a way sort of. But yeah, I think and I said it on the broadcast, and I think I said it here last week as well. I think what the best part about the four teams has been is the fact that there hasn't been one team that's just completely out of the race. I think the fact that all four are in the race, I think this would have been a real disaster had, say, one team just been, at this point in time, 6 wins and eliminated. I think if you would have had, or even if you would have had two teams that would have been way off the pace, and you had two teams eliminated by this point in time, it just would have been, but the fact of the matter is, and I think my knee jerk sort of remains, it has been probably the most competitive ABL season that we've seen perhaps ever, in terms of, yes, there's only four teams, but again, the fact that sort of, Sydney should clinch this weekend, but that race to get the second playoff spot, I mean, you got Giants 14-16, Perth 14-16, Brisbane's 13-18. I mean, obviously it becomes the hardest for Brisbane with games in hand for Perth and Adelaide, but yeah, it's interesting, Dave. I just think it's been a really interesting year where fundamentally Sydney should run away with it, but I don't know if it's that kind of year where things will happen that they should.
Baseball's best mate, my knee jerk here too. It's been, like I said earlier, like I said a moment ago, I kind of, before I led you into it, was, Sydney's been the story. They've been the top of the ladder the whole time. But I'm with you. The biggest disaster you've avoided, and if you look at the records right there, 2011, 14, 16, 14, 16, 13, 18. If let's just say pick one of those three, and they stunk. They were just dreadful. And so you now just have two teams vying for one spot. The good thing is, and we talked about this back in the opening. Remember, I mentioned about how the American Association, with your 4-team division, 5-team division, that last month you're playing your division teams for the most part. You may have one series here and there outside the division, but you really are fighting tooth and nail the last 5 or 6 weeks to clinch, get a playoff spot, and that's what you're trying to do. And this has been very much like a last 5 or 6 weeks of the American Association, Pioneer League. I mean, insert any minor league you want to call it. It's very much like that because in general now, the way the schedule works in the American Association, there's always one series or so mixed in where you've got, like, maybe for example, Sioux City played Milwaukee last year during that last stretch. But Fargo played Cleburne, Kansas City played Cleburne. My point is, for the most part, though, you're playing Fargo, Kansas City, Lincoln. You're playing your own division, Winnipeg. You're playing those teams, and it all came to, and inevitably every stinking year it came down the last weekend of the season. Who was first, second, third? It really came down. Now, granted, Sioux City clinched the division earlier, but who was second, third, and fourth and make the playoffs came down the last weekend of the season. Just like you're going to see here, you're going to see nothing will be decided 2, 3, 4. Well, I guess a sweep would
Yeah.
decide 4, but in general, if you play 500 baseball this weekend, we're going to the last weekend of the season, trying to figure out who's 2, 3, 4. And I think that's
Yep.
if there is a plus in the 4-team layout, it is this sprint makes it very much like a division race in the minor, or really in the big leagues. It's what you do. I
Yeah.
think that's a plus.
and I think that's sort of the way you kind of got to, yeah, you got to look at it. Like, yes, I mean, I think, there's a lot of noise around the four teams, but it's just like, yeah, you're spot on, DV. Treat it as a division race, and top two qualify, and that's it, and then everyone's in the race, and it's rare that everyone's in the race in any league. So, yeah, like I think that, as I say, I think the best part is no doubt the fact that there's no complete disaster in terms of someone's won four games and that's it. So um yeah, so that's awesome. But yeah, and I think this weekend will be, that Adelaide Brisbane series is probably, I think, has to be the series of the weekend, just given the potential ramifications. I mean, if Adelaide sweep that series and
Yeah.
then obviously eliminates Brisbane, but then also probably just sorts that out. So
Yeah, because I believe the scenarios are this week, according to the ABL, which Eric Bellinar, appreciate his help as always. That Sydney moves on with a pair of wins over Perth, or a win over the Heat and two Adelaide losses. So there's a combo, but basically Sydney's in the driver's seat. If Sydney splits, they're in. That doesn't that they clinched the number one seed, a playoff spot. They clinched the ABL league championship with 3 wins this weekend, or 2 wins over Perth, and Adelaide and Brisbane split their series. So those are those are very likely scenarios, right? I mean, it's possible Sydney wins both,
yep.
and if that series splits out, the other series splits, Sydney's going to the top spot no matter what. So that would be decided. But again, you're still going to have something to say about Perth, Adelaide, and if Brisbane has to avoid the 3 loss, if Brisbane gets beat 3 times, they're done and dusted. I mean, they just can't. Brisbane's got to win that series, and I guess let's start right with that series too. They've got to win that series. Their backs are firmly against the wall. 3 wins probably keeps them alive. 4 would definitely put them back in the hunt. How do you see that series? I mean, my concern for Adelaide is, I'm not a concern. My excitement for Adelaide is, look what Robbie Glendenning did. Robbie Glendenning comes off the deck, hadn't seen him in months, rolls in, has 7 hits over the weekend for Adelaide. Maybe the guy, maybe he flew in a cape or something. I mean, like, perfect timing for Robbie. He was a father to be as well. Congratulations to Robbie and his lovely wife, expecting as well. But he does fly in like Superman and rescues the Adelaide Giants, doesn't he?
Well, yeah, and look, I actually think they're probably the most. I think they're probably the most trending team. If you want to say that, I think they're the I think they're the ones with the highest ceiling, and I think they're the ones that probably, in my opinion, I think they've got the biggest ceiling. You look at what Nick Ward's doing, what Salterbahn's doing. You add in Glendenning into the mix, and and their pitching. Their pitching is like pretty good as well. I mean, Van Stensel seems to have sort of, he's pretty good back in
He
that
saves now, yeah, yeah.
that pen. But yeah, look, I think they're actually, like I think if you probably right now, and I know the Heat's record's been the best over the last sort of 2 to 3 weeks, but yeah, I think there's a lot to like about this Adelaide team. I think there's a few. I didn't mind. I thought Brisbane's rotation was solid, and I think there's a couple of young guys that were pretty good there. There was of course a gent that you would have known from the American Association in a starting role for Brisbane as well.
Colby
But
Kaiser, right? Yeah, Colby
yeah,
Kaiser.
Colby
Yep.
Kaiser, who I thought did a really good job, and their rotation for the most part stacked up. And as I say, their offense was the issue on the weekend against the Heat. But they had Robbie Perkins sort of in and out a little bit, which I'm not sure whether it was nursing injury or just sort of resting or whatnot. But their offense is probably what's let them down a little bit. Let them down on the weekend, but yeah, I just think Adelaide are probably heading in the right direction, DV. And there's a lot of things to like about them. And I just think that when you kind of, like I think they were, like if you sort of, if we turn the clock back to last weekend, I mean, as I said, they had the number one Sydney Blue Sox. They beat them up Thursday night, dropped by a run. One Saturday double dip, and the scores got reversed again when Game 4 sort of came. But in a 3-game series, I think they're as dangerous as anyone. I think the championship series is only a 3-game series, so. Um, And it's
So
been interesting that Alex Wells has given up the most hits and not pitched the most innings as well. So, and Jack O'Loughlin as well. He wasn't the Jack O'Loughlin we know when he first started the season, but then look at, I mean, his body of work on that Thursday night game. I mean, I caught a little bit of it, but didn't really necessarily see the whole thing. But for him again, 5 innings pitched, 2 hits, 5 strikeouts, 3 walks. No end runs, obviously, and then like Kai Hampton as well has been someone who's had a great season for the Adelaide Giants, and like they've got some, and then their offense has been,
they
as you
added
said, Robbie Glendenning.
Yeah, Grobby, but they also added Josh Hendrickson too, who I believe
Yeah,
he went. I think he went 5 innings, 3 strikeouts, but he got. I don't think he got a decision. I don't think, but he did. He pitched good. I mean, that's a guy it's been at a high level. Has got some. I mean, they've added some pieces. They've done what everybody else has tried to do over the years. Add those New Year's Eve pieces. They got a couple. I mean, they. I do like their pitching. I like their club overall, and I'm with you. We're getting ahead of ourselves, but 3 game series against anybody, that's scary,
yeah. Well,
especially what we've seen them do.
when you look at when the weekend ended, I mean, if you look at just averages for Adelaide, just averages. I mean, you got Ward finished the weekend, his season average 353, Saltamon 333, McArdle 284, Glendenning 367, Harida 333, Mitch Edwards again 305. Colmenares is 333, and then your 789 hitters are 279, 268, 302 with limited bodies of work for some of them. But I mean, that's good hitting.
I mean,
The
Rick Glendening
team,
got. I
the,
think he's got 11 hits in his. I think I mean 7. I think I said 7. He actually had
yeah,
11. And I mean, and
yeah,
granted, he's that I mean, Nick Ward's got 42, but I mean, you extrapolate that out. I mean, heck, I mean we're looking at a 60 some odd hits if he'd
yeah.
have played all year. I mean, that'd have been MVP, Helms Award winning stuff. By the way, Alex asking have you heard anything on injuries, Paul? He says he sees both on the roster. I don't know what he means by both, but he says
Yeah, and I think
uh,
there was injuries to Pineda and also Ibar for Perth. They both left the game early on Sunday. I haven't heard anything. I know that there was and it probably would have. Yeah, so I'm not sure what the go is with them. Usually, if they've probably gone back to the states, probably heard about it. But I think
yeah.
Ibar's was maybe a little bit more cramp than anything else, and yeah, I'm not 100% sure on Pineda, but it was. I'll tell you what, that Sunday game though, boy, that was a beating. That was that
It
Sunday
looked
game.
it
It
looked
was
every
just
bit
12,
it looked every bit the
12.
surface of Mars or the sun or Jupiter, whatever the
It
world's
was
hottest planet. It was like the lava planet. Those poor folks out there, and I don't blame them. They were hiding
it
under the
was
awnings, and I mean it was slip slop slop, and we're in
it
the zinc
was
and the hats and the Bunnings hats. It was something else, man.
Well, I'll tell you how bad it was. I mean, my skin generally doesn't fare that well in the sun anyway. But I had to do a presentation before the game at, mind you, 11:30. It was just brutal down there, brutal. And anyway, I was out doing the under 16s, the under 18s cap presentations. I ended up like our good mate Dunny by the end of it. I was red, sir, and. I mean, I think every player that came out that I talked to, it's just like, that's not usually, you don't usually play 12 o'clock games, but that was a beating, that game. It was so hot. And of course, the infield's a dust bowl because it's impossible to keep sort of any moisture in the infield. So it was just, yeah,
Yeah,
I felt for the players.
it looked like that. I watched a little bit of the replay there. It's we're baseball's best.
Yep, we've lost TV.
They lost him for a
So it looks like
moment.
we've
Oh, there
lost.
we
I
there
know
we
we've
go.
got
Got you,
DV.
got
We're
you.
getting,
Got you back. Got
yeah.
you back. Got you back. Round 9. We were talking just a moment ago. From Brisbane, I want to say this about Brisbane before I make my call. And this is not about their team necessarily, but if let's go back to what you were talking about earlier. If we had a longer league, a longer season, I'll tell you a guy that will put together one heck of a roster before and after who could do both. And I think this is that's a Jim Bennett strength in Brisbane
Mm,
because he has those contacts in North America, not just in affiliate ranks. You know, it's a very similar thing. For Brooke Knight, those two guys have relationships in North America, not just in the affiliate ranks, but in the pennant ranks. And I think that bodes well if we were ever to go that longer, elongated season where you've got to build a
Yeah.
couple different rosters around a core. I just throw that out there just a bit. I
Yeah.
think their
No, I
backs are
agree.
I think their backs from against the wall. And I'm with you. I mean, Adelaide, you can't add the pieces that they've added. I mean, just if you just Josh and Robbie alone with Glendening and Hendrickson alone, you just add those two pieces who both played outstanding last year in the States. I mean, both playing in Kansas City and caught up with both of them last year. They both had really good years. I mean, you're adding two pieces right there, national team members. I mean, I just think that I think I'm with you. This is Adelaide's race to lose, and it's Brisbane's last stand. And with that, I'm going to go out on a limb and say those two teams split this weekend, and will give Brisbane a little life going into the final week. But I still think Adelaide is in the driver's seat. That's my bold hot sports opinion.
Yeah, I think Adelaide will win. I think Adelaide win the series 3-1, but yeah, it's interesting. I think they're trending in the right direction, but I sort of was all weekend. I was kind of thinking, oh, Brisbane are gonna bounce back. Brisbane are gonna bounce back. This offense is gonna break out, and never sort of really did, despite one game. So I think Adelaide, they're trending. I think at this point in time, Adelaide are probably my Claxton Shield prediction as well. I think as it sort of stands at the
I
moment, but
I
but
like that pick. I have again. It's very simple. You add this situation with the margin of error between. I mean, yes, Sydney is head and shoulders right now above, but that gap's closed a bit. And I'm not saying that if they played all year long, if Adelaide had this roster all year long, and Sydney did, I think it's a lot closer race than 5 games. I would say it's probably a game and a half. And I still think
yeah.
those two pieces I gave you a moment ago could make the 3 game series a toss up. I really believe that, even though you'd be playing on the road in the grand final. But again, Perth has got something to say about that. They're at home for the final time this year. Um, I'm gonna ask you something in a moment that I think that we didn't talk about before, but I think you'll kind of agree with me. They're back home. This is always the last series of the year, notorious, and not last year, but in years gone by. You can go back 5, 6, 8 years ago. The last home series or so for Perth's always been a real baseball celebration. It's really been a tough place for the opponents. We've seen really good teams come in. I remember one year we saw Melbourne come in, and the Aces just need to win a game. They couldn't. Sydney needed to split a series, couldn't. I mean, this is a place where Perth notoriously has played well their last swan song at home. Are you're in the seat? I watched your broadcast, but you did a great job, of the way, on Baseball Plus. But do you feel that the Heat have any? Can they make the run? Because they're going to have to win back to back. Basically, have to win back to back series. You're going to have to win 3 or 4 the next 2 weeks to get in. I think. I mean, I think that's just the way the math's going to come out. It's going to be so close.
Well, like what I like about them is I think their rotation is like I think when you look at, I mean, that Gary Grosjean has been phenomenal. Like the sort of plucked out of South Australian, state league baseball, he's been phenomenal. And then Tucker Smith has done really well, and you look at Jake Bowey's always a competitor, and he's done well as well, and they've probably got to figure out what they're Kieran Hall had a rough start, and I like Kieran Hall in relief probably, but I don't know what they do from a starting role. They can't bring in, just the way the point systems work. They can't bring in another, because Tucker Smith is, even though he lives here and is basically an Australian, I don't think he's formally an Australian yet. So he sort of still counts as an indie player. So, fundamentally they would bring in a Matt Lozovoy who's over here, but they can't do that just based on the point system. But yeah, so I think it'll be interesting to see if they can kind of, maybe perhaps Jordan Power goes into that starting role. I'm not sure whether he does, as the lights have gone off on my office, but I have to just rotate back. It's one of those sensor lights, and think that just thinks that I'm being lazy. So, so
Slide,
um,
slide around your
but
chair,
yeah,
buddy.
yeah. Look, I think I do genuinely think they'll win this series against Sydney, because I just think that they, being at home back to back weekends, and just small things. The weather's been good. The guys been down at the beach. Like they're probably feeling the groove. I think they'll win this series. I do think they'll win this series 3-1. And look, if you're a Heat fan, I think the thing you got to be optimistic about is, they're very good in Adelaide. Their record in Adelaide is great. And they play 5 games against the Giants next weekend in Adelaide, and they'll be feeling, it's the greatness of the Arkaba. They get to stay at that great Arkaba hotel and there in Adelaide, and yeah, good things come out of the Arkaba. So, but I mean, I think one thing that will be, there isn't any clarity at the moment on the injuries with with to Ibar or Pineda, and if those two are out of the lineup. I mean, I think the great part is it gives an opportunity for Ben Nesbitt locally, from Ida Samakawa locally, the people love watching the local guys play, obviously. So, but yeah, look, my prediction in this series, I think it's Sydney obviously came here and swept, and then there was, like there's a bit of carry on after the Sydney guys went and grabbed the broom and came out and actually literally swept the field in and like there's a lot of Perth guys who weren't big on that, and so, but Sydney will come through chock full of confidence. But I just think that this time of the year, Perth have always got better after Christmas, as you know, DV. That's when they've always clicked, and I just think, yeah, I think they win this one 3-1 at home, and I think that sets up I think that sets up the ultimate best of five series. Really, it's a best of five series between them and Adelaide the week after.
I agree. I agree. As we're on baseball's best mate here, looking at the Perth and Sydney series. You say it's Gary? Is it Grosjean or say? Give me the pronunciation.
Grosjean.
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 1 earned run in what, 19 innings? I mean, this guy.
Yeah.
I think this is a story we haven't really talked. I mean, you've talked about it quite a bit on the
Well,
broadcast.
well,
This is a guy that was
well,
playing not against the state league, but this guy has played himself into probably getting. He's going to get signed somewhere to play in North America next year. He's going to go back. He's
right.
playing there already, but he's going to get picked up. I've already put it this way. I've already fielded one inquiry about him. So let's just put it that way.
Well, yeah, he just looks really good, and as you know, that there's guys that play well in in the ABL, typically play well in indie ball, and I think, if I was Steve Montgomery, for example, who might be on the other show, I'd be 100%. I'd be sending. I mean, I've got an Explorer's cap. I could put that on and dock up a contract and get it signed this weekend, but. But we could get that done. But look, and what's so interesting is I mean, different scenario because he hasn't been around as long. But you wind the clock back to Ryan Bollinger, who was playing
Yes.
state league baseball here for the Braves for years, and then went to Brisbane. Sort of Brisbane saw him and signed him, and like he also then he ended up playing for the Yankees. I mean, it's getting signed by the Yankees. It's sort of, but he was under the nose the whole time, and
Yeah.
Grosjean was playing, as I say, playing Adelaide State League baseball, and I think he's still playing there. But yeah, I would be. It would it would shock me if and look, and potentially potentially being the fact that a lot of people, Terry Roth and Tampa, the connection, does he get? I mean, he's a 25-year-old guy. Last year was in the Pioneer League for Idaho Falls, but I think he'd look great in his Sioux City Explorers uniform, personally. But that's just me.
I don't know what his contract situation is, but I'll be contacting Mongo later. One guy to watch in
Yeah.
that series too, had a big week, was Dylan Leach. Little background on his story. Went to University of Arkansas. I believe he played at Missouri in the SEC. He went to two SEC schools, Missouri and where Robbie Glendenning played, graduated from, and then also Arkansas. And I believe he wrapped up in Missouri State, which is Missouri Valley Conference. Was picked up, I believe, if memory serves, he was signed by the Blue Jays organization last year at some point in the summer. Only played a limited time there, but he's got a little something. But looks like he's rounded into form there. Uh, just from the Sydney standpoint, I'm looking forward to seeing him this weekend. I haven't seen a lot of him. The other guy I'm looking forward to seeing, there's two things I want to ask you before we close here on Baseball's Best Mate. Um, Warwick Saupold's thrown 19 innings. That's the same as Watson threw last year. He's going to hit not a career high in the ABL, but he's definitely going to be up there. He's going to probably finish, I would say, I'm guessing mid 20s in innings probably this year. Uh, if what I've not talked to him, so I can't vouch. But what is your feeling? Are we seeing him? I mean, he's looking like he sort of has a role that as long as he wants this role, much like Tim Cannelli. As long as he wants this role's there for him. It feels like, seems like.
Yeah, 100%. And well, actually, Paul Kurtenbach, we worked together in the same office. So he actually just literally just walked past my office 10 seconds ago. So while you're talking, so I speak to him often, and yeah, I think look, he's just, yeah, and it's actually seeing him more often, and obviously I see him daily through work. Like I understand how much work he puts into it as well, and I mean, like he's a guy that could, and I've said it to him many times. I mean, yeah, he could. I mean, he achieved everything he needed to achieve. I mean, but he puts in the work, and he's determined to get that green and gold jersey for the World Baseball Classic. And look, he's he you can't help but root for the Heat when you
Do
talk
you,
to him as well, because he is fired up to win for the Heat.
do you realize since his outing in the playoffs 2 years ago in Adelaide that he's given up? This is the numbers I have. This is the day by day. I've got him with 28 and a third innings, only allowing. I believe this is correct. He's allowed only 10 earned runs in that time, and again, that was the 4 earned runs he allowed in Adelaide. I mean, that's only eight. I'm sorry, 6 earned runs his last 27 innings. I mean,
Yeah,
I mean, that's something in the tank there. I didn't even, I'd forgotten that you guys shared the same office building, and I just threw it out there
yeah,
because I just want to get
yeah.
your thought on him. And it's very interesting that you do
No,
that.
and yeah, and as I talk to him often, it's actually quite an interesting office, because Luke Hughes as well is in our Melbourne office. So I talk to Hughesy a fair bit about baseball and
Uh, am
whatnot,
I?
and
Does that make me the Dallas
we get some
office? Or
scoops. Yeah,
am I
you're the
the
Dallas office, so you get the
uh,
scoops.
yeah,
But yeah, no, it's yeah, I think he. But the thing that, and this is what I've always said, is when he comes into a game, you just know you're going to get heart and soul, and I think to me that's the big
yeah,
thing. And sometimes he may not have it, but if he doesn't have it, he's going to guts it out to get it done. And I
you
think
know,
that's the big
at,
thing, where you see some people give it up, but he does.
it's very interesting you say that because today on my show here in the States, I had Nate Gherkin on. Now, Nate Gherkin pitched in Perth
Yep.
during the COVID year. And Gherkin,
Yep.
we were talking about that. And in Gherkin, I'm paraphrasing what he said, but he said, basically saying, he said that he basically said, it's heart and soul. I mean, it's passion, and that's what Waza brings to the table, no doubt. By the
Yep.
way, my friend, uh, my friend from Kansas City saying, "Why is Paul Morgan the most charming man in the world?" Also, where's my shirt? Oh, he wants a
Yeah.
Paul Morgan shirt. Okay, I got you,
Yeah, well,
Stino. Very
there you
funny.
go. Well, we'll get there. But yeah, no, I do need to make that. Because we're talking on the broadcast. So you will might know this better than I. And also, our friends in Kansas City might know this better than. So where is the Arrowhead going? Is it in proximity to like where the Monarchs play?
The plan, at least what I understand, it's in that same area. We're in that Legends complex out in Johnson County, Kansas, out by Kansas
Yeah,
Speedway, out right. It's going to be more in that same area, right where the Monarchs
yeah,
are. There's a big outdoor mall there. There's a
yeah.
casino, a big NASCAR track. There's a soccer. There's where the Sporting KC plays is there. Their soccer stadium is there. It's right in that area. It's a good,
And
oh gosh, 20 miles I'm sorry, west of where Arrowhead is currently now. So yeah, it's
and
interesting situation there.
do the Royals move as well? Do you think? Or
Well, that hasn't there's been no word on that. And they're looking into. They'd love to play downtown, but I know that Kansas, the state of Kansas. So what you have in Kansas, folks, what you have in Kansas and Missouri border each other, and Kansas City's got Missouri and Kansas, and you've got two state governments also pulling the strings as well. And Kansas is trying to get as much as they can across the border there. So that's but yeah, they
yeah,
they can wind up anywhere. Honestly, this is probably I've heard anywhere between and Stino says, yeah, they're saying it's going to be out there somewhere, although there's no rumblings that it's not final yet, but it's in the works. As far as baseball is concerned,
yeah,
they could wind up anywhere between downtown uh, Kansas City out that way, or even downtown Nashville for crying out loud. I mean, I doubt it comes to that, but I know there are cities out there, Portland being one, Nashville being the other, and with Las Vegas
Montreal
getting
being the
Major
other.
League,
Yeah,
yeah, Montreal right in the mix. I don't think it's Kansas City. I think it's more likely it's Tampa that goes somewhere. But
Yeah.
and I think expansion's coming. But that's a great conversation for our future
Mm.
endeavors
We'll
right
have to have
there. But
that. Yeah, we'll have that
yeah,
in our off-season show.
yeah. Here on
But
Baseball's Best
DB,
Mate. The final thing I want to ask you real quickly here.
yep.
I know what happened on the weekend, and it was the anniversary of the passing of Greg Jelks. And Greg Jelks, if you are an Australian baseball fan, you know Greg Jelks. If you don't know, if you're just new to the show, he is one of the greatest ball players to ever play the game in Australia. He was an American from Alabama, went over and played. You and I have a lot of respect and love for him, and a lot of we were there when that happened together. We remember that well. It was just, obviously in round 7 or whatever what it was back then. Thoughts just as we look down. I know it's been a while, but just Greg Jelk's memory as we close things out.
Well, he was, and I think for anyone that's not, so if you wind the clock right back to when he was playing, it was like, I mean, I was a kid when he was playing, but he was like, he came to town, and still, I don't know if any athlete has probably had the impact in a city that he had. He was the man about town. He was the first person to bring swagger to Perth. He was like, he built the foundation for you know culturally the things that have progressed in certainly in this city. And I think that's the one thing. You look, and a great example is this weekend. Next weekend there's something called Hoops Fest here in Perth, which is the NBL basketball. All the teams are coming to Perth to play. Allen Iverson's here. Like, last year Carmelo Anthony was here. You've got this NBA connection here as well. So you got this American culture sort of, which people love, and despite the political nonsense that people get into, I mean, people love American culture, here, and the sports in particular, and like Jelks was one of the guys who just he bought this, like, something that nobody had ever seen before. And it's just, and his legacy lives on. Of course, there's still the Greg Jelks Foundation, and Jai Hewitt, who still wears his number, and the 44 is still there. And yeah, it's and he taught so many guys how to be better ball players as well. And and that's why, he was a massive part of the reason why the Heat was so dominant in that period when they were, because he was the hitting coach for a long time, and hitting coach for Team Australia, and yeah, I think he was just, all round. But culturally, like, there was no one bigger in the early '90s, because Big Bash cricket hadn't happened, and things hadn't happened, and night baseball was one of the few night sports at the time. And he was the man, and I think it still, his legacy lives on. And I think, without guys like him, and you still, if you talk to anyone in their 50s now, and you said, oh, yeah, I broadcast Perth Heat baseball, they'll be like, oh yeah, I remember them, yeah, Greg Jelks, and like, that's the first thing they'll say.
Yeah.
So
And Steve,
it's
Steve Montgomery tells me all the time, because Mongo pitched over there and was on his team in the '90s, and he says, you got to remember too about this guy. He also hit with an aluminum bat, and no pitcher. He goes, there was no pitcher in that league. I don't care what they tell you, want to get that on that mound and face him with that aluminum bat, because you knew you couldn't. There were no cheap outs. You weren't going to saw him off, because not only was he powerful at the plate, he was going to. Even if you try to jam him, you were not going to break a bat. It was amazing. And Bongo said Bongo's always told me, I'm so thankful I was his teammate. I'd have to face him, but I will close with that. But hey,
yeah,
we'll be back. We'll be back next week. You have a good broadcast. Where can folks find the
well,
broadcast tonight on Baseball Plus?
I believe we're on Baseball Plus. Yes, we are on Baseball Plus. 7 o'clock local, which is 5 a.m. there in Dallas. So you're probably not up for that one, but 10 o'clock. What is it? 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 o'clock in Sydney as well. So it'll be a late night for those folks in the east. But yeah, join along. Send us a message throughout. It's great to hear from where people are tuning in from, and yeah, we'll get back to this next week.
All right, have a great broadcast. I'll let you go to work. I know you're already locked and loaded. You're already your third cup of coffee. Go
Thanks,
and enjoy
Stevie.
it. Tell Waza we said hi. There he goes. Paul Morgan. They're the standings right there as we wrap things up here on Baseball's Best Man. He had to rush into the office. I'm going to go bring him back in the library here. But again, we're back at it again next week. And yes, glad that Nito, you liked that, didn't you? All righty. Okay, again, Baseball Plus tonight, and all both again. You've got Perth and Sydney, and Adelaide and Brisbane. And at the moment, I share those standings one more time before we go. There they are, right there. You've got 5.5, 5. It's not 705, it's 7.5, but you guys get the point in the graphic there. By the way, that's a good shot. That's a great shot of the West right there. You guys can see that. That's a great shot of, actually, that is, that is, no, that's not. That's a shot of Sydney. Okay, I didn't know which one that was. Sorry about that. I wasn't sure which one. I thought we had the wrong one up there. But anyway, you guys get the point. But there's your standings right there. And again, at the moment, one more time, wrap up this thing. This playoff scenario is coming up. Currently, this is the way it plays right now. Basically, Sydney's got to do one thing, and that's split a series. They split a series this weekend. Sydney's going to be. They're going to guarantee themselves a postseason. Okay, that's the first thing we do know. Secondary to that, with the right math, we know that if Adelaide wins 3 over Brisbane, then Brisbane's going to be done and dusted. So we do know that as well. That's the other piece of the puzzle. Everything else probably stays status quo. Now, the one way in for Sydney, now the one way they're in, let me get this to you real quickly. I had this up a moment ago. I didn't put it on the screen, but quickly here. The one way in for Sydney as the league regular season minor premiers, it will be at 3 wins over Perth, or if they win 3 over the Heat, they're going to be minor premiers, or they get 2 wins and Adelaide and Brisbane split the series, which, again, that's a very likely scenario. We've already called Adelaide. I called Adelaide Brisbane split. Paul called Adelaide winning that series, but that right there would send Sydney into that driver's seat to play the host of the grand final in a couple weeks' time. So that is the scenario. And again, Brisbane's got to stay above 3 losses. Brisbane's got to win a series to keep it alive. In the Heat's case, Perth has got basically, they win 2 series, they're going to be in. Adelaide, split a series, win a series. That's pretty much it right there. That's sort of the lay of the land there as we go forward. Closing it out here on Baseball's Best Mate. I'm glad you guys stopped by for 5 minutes. So a little the whole time. Podcast will be up in about 15 minutes, maybe less. We'll be back next week. Same time, same place. 8 a.m. in the West, 6 p.m. Central Daylight Time in North America. And you adjust your timepieces. 10:30 in South Australia. It'll be 11 o'clock there in Sydney. And in lovely Queensland, 10 a.m. there in Brisbane. So there we go. Let's be better fans tomorrow. We're today. Let's show more love tomorrow today. Hope you have a great 26, first round of 26. It's round number 9, but it's a first one of 26. Hope your team wins. Please tune into the broadcast wherever you watch and listen. Tune in. By the way, we'll actually update you on some news from Melbourne next week as well, as those folks are doing their thing there in Victoria. So again, for Paul Morgan, I'm Dan Vaughn. We'll see you next time, everybody. See you later. Where's the close? Oh, there's the close. There we go.
Buy me some peanuts and Cracker Jacks. I don't care if I ever get back for its root. Root for the